Ripping, Beckley. Ripping, Beckley.
Welcome to Left Brain, Right Brain. And I've got Aaron with me. Usually I don't have a co-host, but I thought for you, we're going to have a co-host.
Nice. It's cool to be talking to two people. It makes it more festive.
Well, it's how the podcast used to be like that, but it's become a bit more like investigative now and one-on-one. But I brought him back for this one because, I've been watching your videos for a while. There's a lot of people I know in my scene. And when I say my scene, I mean like the people around me in Melbourne who follow you as well. So
all the way over there in Melbourne.
For sure. I mean, what you do translates everywhere. I feel like it's fairly universal, even if we don't know what language you're talking in.
It's become more universal since I stopped speaking English, really, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you had followed me for long enough to see that transition, but there was a long time where I was, writing songs and singing, and they were weird and getting weirder always, and involving a lot of the snethy Goblin language, but then a while ago it shifted.
So the language, is Sneth the actual language?
That's the easiest word to call it.
And is it an actual language in the sense like in Lord of the Rings, they're like Tolkien had like a particular language that you can actually learn? Is it the same? Have you made your own kind of like dialect with its own rules for the land of Sneth?
No, probably because I'm a nasty goblin and I don't want anyone else to learn it.
So you're gatekeeping this language to yourself.
Yeah, very happily gatekeeping it, because you never know what people are going to do if they, I don't know.
That's really interesting though, because the concept of language in general is to communicate. It's to bridge that barrier. But you've created a language that I guess bridges the barrier between you and the audience in a performative way, right? Because it's a performative language.
Yeah,
strict dialect to it.
Yeah, it's also a way for me to express those certain types of feelings that I have in those moments, and I like it to not mean anything, because then they're more just sounds in and of themselves,
So these sounds that you make, because I was going to ask you the same thing about what you're playing, if it's rehearsed and composed. We've spoken to a lot of avant-garde composers who play the same crazy, pieces each time, verbatim, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But what I wonder
really?
is, do you do that with your words? Are the words themselves carefully crafted and repeated almost like a spell each time? Or is it random?
It's self-organizing, and I would say more towards the side of random, but it does have self-organizing properties in that over time, from being on the spot over and over again, whether it's in a video or on stage, these words are fighting for the right to become said, and the ones that are most easily available I will go with, And it used to be very written out. Yeah, I used to have I can show you even here probably. This? Oh yeah, this like this. Porking Ible Sniper Ike wackled in a thistle while epistle is a Samuel preamble in the north. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was all composed, and I'm talking about like hundreds of full-on songs, and I would memorize them and then, say them, repeat them on stage. But then in 2020, I decided that it was a more of a fun and worthwhile challenge to switch to improvisation and leave all those things behind, for better or for worse,
Yeah, improv is interesting because I do a lot of improv in my band, and I get a lot of shit for it from my bandmates because they need to ground themselves on the rhythm. So the rule that we have now is, as long as the rhythm is similar to the original rhythm, then I'm allowed to kind of improvise so that they have a basis for that. Which is
for sure. Yeah, no, that's one of the nice things about playing solo, is that you only have to be on the same page with yourself. And if you create a situation in which you're going to be doing a lot of chaos and polyrhythms and mixed meters and that stuff is expected, then you can just do whatever. And if it syncs up, that's cool for a second. But actually, you get to a point where maybe you don't want it to sync up because that sounds too normal.
Yes, you have to go against that in every way you can.
Yeah, it's a feeling thing. There's a lot of variables. Well, there's the cello, and then there's the vocals, and then there's the kazoo. And so the cello can sometimes play a riff that's like, in a time signature, and then the vocals can go with that for a second, or they can go completely against it. And the kazoo more and more, it's almost like, they're a group of artists in a scene all themselves, imaginary, and they do things that are cool. And what's cool now was not cool, a couple years ago. Because like a couple years ago, it was cool for the kazoo players to play in the same rhythm as the cello, but then they realized like that's way not cool. And so now the kazoo is more like bird.
Right. Did your training, because you're classically trained from BerkeleyCollege, right? You're like Berkeley.
Yeah. Well,
oh, sorry.
Berkeley's more of a jazz school, like jazz and like rock or whatever.
And did your training at Berkeley prepare you for what you do now?
Maybe in some ways. What it did is definitely like put me in a scene of musicians that were into some weird stuff that I wouldn't have got exposed to otherwise. Like when I first went to college, I got put in a dorm with this guy named Lance Romance. Well, that was his stage name. And he lived on pretty much a mountain of trash. He had like 75% of the room, and I had like 25% of the room. Maybe it was even less than that. But he was over there in the practice rooms recording on an 8-track, making songs about tampons and stuff. And at the time, I was a very serious like cello guy. I was like trying to come there to like, make nice music and stuff. And so suddenly I was like, whoa, people are different over here. But then, then I got introduced to like people that were into like free jazz and all kinds of weird music of all kinds.
Actually, sorry, I got a question because I had a similar experience in university as well, where I guess the music that you make now, is that more so a response or a rejection of the music that they were trying to make you make in school, I guess, or what they were trying to like direct you towards? And like now the work is more like, oh, I'm actually not about that. It's like anti-bureaucracy, like who gives a fuck kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but no explanation of how it comes to be could ever possibly say all the reasons that it does come to be how it comes to be, because that would take like way 4D like psychoanalysis and science analysis of everything, you know what I mean? Because some of it is rebellion and some of it is just pure inner joy, and then some of it is maybe even self-hatred, and then other kinds of things. There's rejection and acceptance and I don't know, whatever else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I was just thinking about, I was still thinking about the guy with the trash mountain, and I was wondering if he was like the original. You know how in Spider-Man there's the Green Goblin, there's also the Hobgoblin. I feel like like a camaraderie with this guy and his songs about tampons. But
yeah, he was a big influence, and I didn't even know it at the time. It's just like it took me years to like come around to really appreciating what he was about.
Yeah, cool. Were you already improvising as the cello Goblin by that point? Like when you were in Berkeley, or did that happen after?
No, I wasn't being the cello Goblin. There was like elements of it in my life, but they were all like separate. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like when I graduated from Berkeley, I was still making very like formal music. I mean, some of it was like original music, and it was pretty different but not in such like a formal way.
Right. And you were nominated for a Grammy, or you won a Grammy as well for one of your pieces?
No, that was a nomination. We went there in 2003, I think. I was in a band called Fiddlers 4 with some older fiddle people. See, there's like a whole fiddle folk music scene, and I got involved in that. And since there wasn't anybody playing cello in it, really, I really like stood out. And so I got a lot of opportunities back then. And the people that are from my, my hometown and my family and everybody back then was pretty, they were pretty happy for me, because it's like, everyone thinks the Grammys are something special or whatever. I think it's just, it's just like a club. I mean, maybe it has some relation to merit sometimes, but it's kind of arbitrary, and anyway, but if you say Grammy, everyone goes like, wow. And so back then I was doing real good. And so it's been like I guess what I was trying to say is it's been a very strange curve, like in terms of weirdness. It's like, here's this like 1999, I go to college, 2002, start getting a little weird, get weird, maybe get more normal. Then it goes backwards and upside down and spiraling fractal to another dimension.
It's interesting you say that, because like I have a friend who's followed you for a long time, and when he found out that shout out to Jay, when he found out that you were coming on the show, he's like, yeah, that guy has like changed a lot throughout the years. That's all he said. He was like, that guy's like definitely shifted. And so I went through your content, and I mean, the stuff that you're doing now, incorporating elements of stunts as well. You've been upside down in a toilet, basically naked, playing if not completely naked. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, you've driven and played it as well, which is legitimately dangerous no matter what speed you're going at.
Yeah, I try to pick a time when no one else is around on the road. You know what I mean? And
are you a fan of danger music in the sense of I'm sure you already know about this, but in Japan, I guess later on Gigi Allen and all that kind of took over, but that you had bands like I guess you have bands like the band that like hijacked an airplane, Les Rails, The Nudes, or the band that drove a forklift into the back of a gig. I think it was Boredoms, but I need to correct myself on that. But that element of like danger, the thrill of like a stunt mixed with playing music, like is that a new thing for you? That kind of element of legitimate risk, does it heighten the experience for you?
It does heighten the experience for me. I think it's been going on for quite some time though. The first time I hung upside down, for example, I had a band called Tornado Rider, and we were playing in Florida, like headlining this festival, or we had like I don't know if we were headlining that year, but it was like a closing set in this tent, and it was packed full of people, and like the vibes were getting pretty intense, and there was some girls there that I was trying to impress, and I climbed up the pole and hung upside down from the tent, and that was like, it was kind of a thing. Then I started doing that a little bit more, and I was always doing things, like getting up on stuff and like just like experimenting with the physical variables of the performance, because I grew up watching Angus Young, and he was like crazy. He wasn't hanging upside down, but he was basically like getting electrocuted 24/7, And then I found out he got his moves he got some of his moves or inspiration from Chuck Berry, So it goes back. It's kind of a tradition, but then it's like, well, if you accept that as a valid part of the whole product or whole artistic expression, then you have to ask, like, well, what can you do with it? And then it becomes very fun. Like when I first realized I could put my head in the toilet and stand there like upside down on my head, that made me so happy,
I mean, but in the context of finding that out, was it did you go in there with a musical approach, or did this just happen normally? Like, did your head just end up in that position by some kind of miraculous accident?
Oh, no, it's like there's always a lead up, everything is coming from all these different streams of things that led up to 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 other things. And it's like social media has made me get more creative with the visual aspect of things, because I mean, you could sit there and just play music and ignore the fact that it's a visual medium, but that doesn't get me as far as when I do something like that's more like
Well,
So, I'm always thinking, well, what can I do? I've stood on my cello this way. I've stood on my cello that way. I've humped it. I've like played it with my tongue. I've done these things. And I was like, what can I do? I can get up there. I can hang from the ceiling. I can get in between the walls, like straddle. And then somehow, I don't know. I was like, I'll go in the toilet. That'll be cool.
It's great. Like, you're utilizing the space to its maximum potential. And as a result of doing that, you're also getting the cello, which might not be an instrument that a lot of, necessarily that a lot of young people listen to. You're getting it out into the, quote unquote mainstream because you're doing these, extreme things with your body in these spaces, which is a cool mix.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I think the cello is the perfect instrument for it. I mean, say I was a guitar player or playing some other kind of instrument. I don't know. It seems like it wouldn't be as cool because the cello, you can kind of like, at least the way that I figured out how to play it for myself, it's like it's good for the general chaotic situations in that it can like express what's going on in a way that is like, I don't know, it kind of like goes with it, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
As opposed to like if I was upside down in the toilet and I was just like strumming like G and C on the guitar, like that doesn't necessarily go together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool. Do you feel that the algorithm and the way that the algorithm, which has changed, right, over the past 4 or 5 years, the way the algorithm pushes out certain types of content, were you already as extreme as you are now, or has the algorithm exacerbated certain tendencies to the next level, with your performance?
I would say I was always that extreme at shows, and then working with the algorithm has just been a matter of highlighting certain parts of those shows, like like I'll always like if I'm at a show and I'm outside in the lawn, like way before my social media rise, I would be at shows and there was a lawn and I would go and like eat the grass, you know what I mean? Just start chewing up the grass, keep it in my mouth, chew up some rocks, catch some rocks in my mouth, spray bar cleaner in my face, whatever. So I was always doing that kind of stuff, hanging upside down, getting dragged around by my feet, just anything you could think of to like put on a show. I mean, I'm kind of a clown really when it comes jester / goblin / clown. So, gotta entertain one way or another. So yeah, so then social media it seems like it's exacerbated it in that I wouldn't normally just be sitting around like spraying chemicals in my face, but if it was a show and there was chemicals nearby and they seemed not that harmful to my face, I would for sure be spraying them in my face.
Is the I guess in terms of talking about the risk reward, the satisfaction that you get from your performances, is it always worth? Because I imagine if you're spraying, I'm imagining that you're spraying Windex. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're spraying like some crazy shit in your face. I'm sure it's not water for starters.
Yeah, people are like, some people are defending me by saying that he could have filled it with water or whatever. But yeah, I try to use the real thing so I can get a real genuine reaction. Because here's the other thing is with improvised music is that you get a genuine reaction emotionally in yourself or just situationally with whatever's going on. It comes through the cello and it comes through the kazoo especially and the vocals,
Yeah,
so
I agree.
it's imposing like a filter on the music or a limitation, if you will. And while some people might think that, hey, that's not musical because it's something outside the music, well, music is mostly made of limitations. Like the cello, it has 4 strings. It doesn't have 128 strings. You know what I mean? It's not unlimited. It's a limited thing. And you play with a bow. It's not a bow that's also a pick. I mean, it's a bow, and so you have to work within that framework to like make music. And so it's cool that it has limitations, like a string quartet. It's like not every instrument ever. It's just a string quartet, and it sounds that way, or like a bluegrass ensemble or whatever, or a rock band. There's limitations. So limitations are inherently musical and therefore imposing weird physical limitations on myself, like having Lysol in my face, which is, I don't know if I'm going to do that anymore, because people were like pretty mad about, well, people just said it's dangerous and whatever, but
yeah,
that's a very musical limitation to impose upon yourself, just as inventing a new instrument or playing the cello. It's the same thing.
No, I agree. I spoke to a composer and a sound work person last week, David Chesworth, and we spoke about limitations and rules. It comes up a lot on the podcast. Your Brian Eno's, your the cards that you have to use to produce something, or even if it's as simple as like eating a specific meal in the studio, and that's the rule that you set on yourself. What's really interesting about bodily limitations, I mean, the limitations of your own body as a human being. If one thinks about an argument for art, which is that art is the universe experiencing itself through you, right? The idea that you're doing so much for art as a conduit by putting your own physical health at risk could argue that you are one of the more free individuals in that regard. So that's kind of fascinating to me as well.
That's a really cool perspective. And yes, I will bolster my own self-righteousness with that idea going forward. Thank you.
But is there really necessarily ego involved in this, like in that way? Because I guess because I'm trying to understand because I want to go into the lore of the actual Goblin aspect of this. Like, I guess maybe it's a better way to do it is like, where did the Goblin kind of imagery start?
That started when I was a little kid, and I think I heard the word goblin. I don't even think I really saw many stories or anything. I I heard the word goblin, and I just knew that I wanted to be a goblin, and that I was. It was like pretty simple,
right? And so you became this.
And I think it was those finger puppets that are really weird, wild finger puppets. Yeah. Like I was obsessed with those things. I don't know. I just related to them, and then I had this dream that there was a scary attic door in my house, and it was all black and white. And one day in my dream, when I was about 9 or 10, I opened the door, and like hundreds of those things came out. And so I think that was like that was a portal into my subconscious where these other dimensional beings entered, and it took a while for me to live my life and like figure out how to work them in, while getting progressively more goblinous.
So I have a bunch of questions in regards to this. I've noticed that you're not like, I mean, you might be wearing eyeshadow and stuff, but in terms of a monstrous goblin appearance, you're using your face in a more traditional sense and your tongue and your mouth. You wouldn't like, for example, like the band The Garden, who I feel like you would be a fan of, maybe.
Yeah, people say that a lot.
Because of the Goblin, they also do the Goblin thing too sometimes. The clown kind of mime thing going on. They have that medieval aspect to them. And they also have their own rules and their own world, that they abide by. Probably their own language. I think they have their own language too, The Garden, yeah.
I have no clue. I
But-
just like their music.
But it is really interesting. Like I have seen them use like, I guess, prosthetics at times, but they usually use a lot of makeup for their more like mime oriented clown stuff. Do you believe in using makeup, or do you think that your face can speak for itself?
I mean, yeah, I'm experimenting with it a little bit more these days. There's something that I've noticed. It shows sometimes if I'm wearing too much eyeshadow, like I'm normally like kind of intense for people to handle at a show, and sometimes that creates another layer of they're like very freaked out or something.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm maybe ready to lean more into the goblinity. Well, I'm always trying to lean more into it as time goes on and whatever it is. But yeah, as long as it's like can amplify whatever's naturally going on with the moves that my face has learned to make over many years. I mean, this is enough goblinity. I don't know that there needs to be very much more. You know what I'm saying? And that that's my crown jewel of goblinity.
That was a recent addition though, wasn't it? The head shaving, right? That was for a piece.
I first did this in recently. I shaved it again to pour ketchup on it to have a nice landing strip, a ziggurat, if you will, for the ketchup aliens. But
obviously.
But I first did that in 2005, and then again in 2008, and then again in 2022, and then again last year. So
was there a reason for the big gap between 2008 and 2022?
Yeah, I was trying to be a cool guy for a while.
Yeah.
You know, I came out of the whole like folk music, like nice guy thing, and like playing more whimsical, imaginative music. And then I was like, oh yeah. Then I went into like a party guy phase, and I had to try to do all the partying that I missed out on in like high school and college when everyone else was partying, and I was just in the practice room just being real serious. Like they're dorks and they're made fun of when they're younger, and then they experience a little bit of like success or notoriety or just shows with people, and like, you know, then they go crazy because they're like, oh wow, suddenly I'm cool and I didn't even have to try. I didn't have to beat up any surfers or skaters or baseball players or football players or anything. Just
yeah, 1 minute they're getting bullied when they're kids, and then the next they're flying Katy Perry to the moon or taking them back.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, the haircut that you have is interesting because it reminds me of the band The Monks, like one of the pioneers of punk, and they had that kind of like crazy fucking haircut as well. And there was Lord.
Did they all have this haircut for real?
Hey?
They all had this haircut?
I don't know if it's exactly that, but it was something along that because I don't know what that haircut's actually called. I'm pretty sure that would be illegal to do to somebody in like a barbershop setting. There's no like there's a sense of self-empowerment from that haircut because nobody else would give it to you, you know?
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah, for sure. Like, also, it's like it's the one that, you know, most men are afraid of. You know what I mean? Like everyone's afraid
it's
of
a
going
terrifying. Yeah, it's actually the most vulnerable place. It's like if you had a full bodysuit, but the only part that was exposed was like your crotch or your ass, you would feel quite vulnerable. I think it's the same thing, but on your head.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I don't know what you call that. It's like
it's commitment.
Like
that's what it's called, man. Like
type of thing.
You've committed to your practice in a way that now influences your daily life. You know what I mean? Like you've gone where a lot of people, for example, a guitarist can like stop playing guitar and be somebody else off stage. When you're a vocalist, it's a little bit harder because you take that instrument with you wherever you go and that persona too. So there's that too. But you've done it to yourself, you know, as a Goblin cellist. And so now, yeah, you roam. You've blurred the lines yet again between your persona and who you are, which actually leads on to what I wanted to ask you, which is, have you ever lost yourself, for lack of a better word, in the sauce? Have you ever gone so method with your performance that you've actually completely become consumed by it? And if so, how long were you in that kind of fugue state?
Dang, that's a good question. I mean, I think that that's the goal during shows, you know?
Yep.
It's the goal during shows and videos is to get as absolutely lost and carried away and possessed, if you will. And yeah, sometimes I get really ferocious and possessed. And then I guess it takes a while to like come down back to earth. But eventually, you know, I'll just go back to taking walks and climbing trees. Like I mostly try to live a pretty simple life. It's like make videos, take walks, climb trees, eat vegan snacks.
Right. Yeah. Because you're vegan, of course.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like, is there a way that you ever showcase your veganism in your goblin mode as well? Have you ever done any like pieces about that?
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll do that. That's when there's like a mode where the goblin can speak English or something a little bit, because you know, to say any kind of message usually has to be in English. But then there's there's ways, because like I said, the goblin is leading more and more towards not saying any English and like just doing away with sense, which kind of like makes it harder to get specific messages across. I mean, of course, on social media, you can always like, I could make a very weird nonsense video and then put a message about pigs or whatever on there. But I'm trying to do it in a way which it's like, I guess, waiting for the opportunity to do it in a way which is organic and flows with the goblinity.
Not really related to what we were talking about, but maybe, I guess. Like, I've noticed there's some videos where you play to horses a few times.
Oh, yeah.
I was legitimately wondering, like,
ran away.
what it is about the music that the horses don't enjoy. Because I feel like animals can be pretty, I mean, maybe loud noises and stuff like that is the terrifying part. But I guess when I wrote these notes, now that I'm looking at these notes, I'm like, why did I ask this question? But like, what is it, if there's something about your appearance that might trigger something primordial in horses? Because they were around in the medieval ages, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it had like a past life flashback or something that it.
That's what I was wondering.
I mean, because that horse was like out of there real quick.
Yeah, quicker than most, one could say.
It was as soon as I started playing. Well, I used a stick instead of the bow.
Yeah,
it was just available in my car quicker than a bow, and I think the tone of the stick was more. It was more rap-pappy, and maybe the bow would have been better. It's funny that most bows are made out of horsehair. Incidentally, mine are synthetic, but.
Oh wow! So you were coming at it from all the right angles, and the horse just didn't appreciate it, basically.
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't know. Yeah, it was because then as soon as I hit the kazoo, he was like, any questions that he had remaining about whether he should stick around were answered, and he got right out of there. He bolted.
Damn, we should get him on the podcast. We'll get his dates later from you, actually.
Yeah. Somebody said he ran to tell his friends.
Yeah. To stay away.
No. To like that he liked it.
Oh, to bring him back. Yeah. That's cool.
But I had to go.
So where exactly, without doxing yourself, where exactly do you live in the context of like California? You live in LA?
No, not in LA. A ways north of LA, kind of around the Central Coast area.
Oh, so you're closer to like the beach kind of area, right?
Yeah. It's like cheaper to live inland and stuff, but I live I'm from the Monterey Peninsula.
Yeah, right. Cool.
It's very, very pretty, and like right now I just live one county south of that, and it's really, really nice to go by the beach and stuff, and there's like a lot of nice pine trees and cypress trees and some redwood trees, and of course a lot of oaks.
Do you feel like the locals know who you are quite well in those kind of communities?
To be in my hometown, yeah. I mean, every once in a while, like somebody will be like, "Hey, are you the cello goblin?" It happens. When they do say that, I feel very. I'm not one of those guys that like wants to like hide behind a newspaper or something, because to me it's a victory when somebody is like, "Hey, are you the cello goblin?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Are you in like the goblin costume a lot when you're going around town, or are you like just dressed more casually?
Yeah, normally I just wear an elf hat, a green elf hat. You've probably seen the pointy hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wear that normally. I've been thinking about one of these days I can really pretty much get like those fanny packs, I guess, and then I can wear tights. But right now I'm still addicted to wearing pants. I wear weird, colorful pants, and I usually wear pretty colorful clothing, and I look like a freak. But I just like, it's nice to not have to think about it. So,
and so in your scene, in your broader kind of area, I guess in California, do you know other people who are also invested in a similar kind of aesthetic as you?
maybe part of it from over there and another part from over there. I mean, my uncle is pretty weird. He's a pretty weird guy, pretty wild wizard, and he's also vegan, and he lives in his mom's garage, and he has for like 40 years, and he turns a bunch of wood, and he plays really mystical music, and he makes like mobiles and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And so there's that. And then I don't know, there's I guess there's some killer metal bands around here for sure.
I did a bit of Googling and I saw you play the morning news. Was that Good Morning America? What was that in particular?
Oh, yeah, I was playing it. It was like a kind of an avant-garde festival of mostly noise music in New York, Rochester, and the guy had a connection to the local news to promote his thing. You know, there was like 20 bands a night or whatever, and they got me on there.
And so, like, because I saw that performance, and it starts off relatively normal, where like I guess the morning air hosts they can kind of handle it, and then you sort of. But then what was really interesting is I felt like even though you got really weird with it, I think you bit off a chunk of your cello as well. I'm pretty sure you like jumped onto the ground onto your back and did some, and actually probably fucked up the floor as well. Now that I think about it, it was pretty loud, but like. You did all these things, but they kind of weren't like phased, right, from the audio. It sounded like they were like, "Yeah, fuck it."
Yeah, they were. I don't know. I think that they were kind of just like ready for whatever because they knew it was going to be a weird festival. But I think they were. I think they were delighted with the Goblinity. They seemed delighted, but and then they also had a professional obligation to
Be delighted.
be delighted. I think so, and it
Oh.
seemed like
Yeah.
it worked out. But they did. They were a very good. What do you call it? Like backdrop for the Goblin because they're so like normal in suits news person.
As normal as you can get in that field, I guess, if you even call it creative. I believe that journalism is a creative art. It's just that morning news is closer to the weather than like reading the weather, being a weatherman than that. But I mean, yeah, it is interesting always when you have an eccentric kind of performance style or performance look, and you take that to a crowd that's not ready for it. I know in my band that I play in, we've definitely played to certain university students and certain events where we should not have played them. But it's always a challenge as well to people who have their guards up quite high. Whereas these people were also professionals, so they knew how to respond. But I feel like if you tried that in Australia, in like maybe the morning news here, then they would have a very different approach. Maybe they'd even tell you that's what I was wondering about it is if you got briefed as to what you could and couldn't do on air, because in Australia they would have given you a fucking 12 commandments of what you could and couldn't do, you know?
Oh, whoa. I think we went over like the words that I couldn't say, and then maybe make sure that I wasn't going to do anything like overtly sexual or something with it.
That's interesting because the words that you could say, you were speaking Goblin. So for all intents and purposes, words kind of blend together. So it's kind of hard to know, right? Would they have had a fact checker that was like going, yep, he didn't say that? Like, what?
Well, I think they actually, I think that they cut out the audio for a second. Like if you watch the clip, the audio kind of cuts out for a second. And I don't know if that was that the mic stopped working for a second, or if I think it was the person back there being like, oh, he said a bad word, so we're gonna.
Yeah.
You never know what words you're gonna be coming close to saying when you're just flowing in the made up language for a long time.
That's really fascinating because it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. It's like, this is a fake language. And so there is a certain comfort of that, because if it is a fake language that didn't previously exist, then there's no way you could say, if you wanted to get super lucid and super lost in the, in the moment, you would theoretically be up for saying quite literally anything in like an exorcism sense or like a possession sense. So the idea that you have this language is great because it safeguards that from happening. You know what I mean? In its own right.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna say a bunch of random stuff about that like a cult person would say or something.
Yeah, you're not gonna say some fucking like crazy, I don't know, like right-wing shit or whatever. Like you're gonna be like, yeah, because and not even that represents you, or not even that it represents some deeper facet of some repressed state. Like when Mel Gibson was like, he used to get drunk and he got canceled for saying lots of heinous shit. It's like, it's not like you're more lucid to it. Well, maybe you are, but it doesn't represent necessarily who you are. I think especially you're going into it as a goblin. Again, I'm just fascinated by the syntax of the language as a safeguard for not getting cancelled per se. Yeah. Especially because you're not half-assing it. You're putting 100% of your body and your every single part of you on the line. So that's fascinating to me, actually.
Yeah. Thanks for noticing, man. Yeah. I think that is the commitment aspect is important to like Yeah, and that's also why I stopped speaking English during shows, because I didn't want to keep going in and out of it. It's like, because normally I'd be like and do my whole thing and then come out of it and be like, all right guys, you liking it? You guys San Francisco having a good time? And it was just so dorky after a while. I called that guy Brian, and the day I realized that his name was Brian is the day that I fired him.
You fired him from your soul, shot into the ether.
Yeah, I fired him from my show because I was in Santa Cruz and I was getting spun around by my feet. And this was the place, there was a bunch of like big kind of aggro dudes, like surf skate California guys. And like, there's like swinging me around by my feet, and it was all cool. Except one guy wasn't feeling it. And he like, I saw him while I was spinning around. He just went and he poured he splashed his whole beer in my face. And it, kind of like was, insulting, and it stung my eyes. And what I should have done is just rolled with it and kept going. But I guess in the bigger picture, I didn't do that because I needed to discover what a tool Brian was and then fire him. Because after that, I like stopped the whole show, and the guy ran out. He like ran out like a coward. And like, I was like, what? And I like went on some rant. I can't remember what I said, but it was some really embarrassing stuff that made me just look like such a sensitive jerk. And what it does is Brian was making external all the inner dialogue, which is internal, which sometimes is funny. You get used to being on stage and banter and haha, and that's cool. But I feel like it was a worthy sacrifice to lose that. And also make it so that when I'm struggling inside, people don't know. I'm not broadcasting my awkwardness or my insecurities and stuff, and thereby sometimes making them last way shorter than they would normally. You know what I mean? Like you're on stage, you're trying to get in the zone, and you're like really not feeling it, and like you're looking at everybody and they can see right into your soul, and you're like, everybody here completely hates this, and it's really like the worst feeling. And you're like totally embarrassed, and you're like, how am I going to be up here by myself in my tights for 2 hours in front of these people that all hate me? And then and I got the mic right there, and if I'm allowed to speak English, then I'm going to actually say that to them. And then they're going to feel weird about that I said that to them. And then it's going to create a loop of awkwardness, which is just going to spiral out of control. And a lot of shows have gone that way. And so I'm just happy to not be doing that anymore.
It really sounds to me like Brian is the self-conscious aspect of you, or your literal self-conscious. And we all have a Brian in us. And I think it's tough for me as well. Like I've played shows when we have 300 people in front of us, it's so easy to not have Brian, because even though for me speaking in between sets is a big part of it, but because I'm not like trying to adhere to a character, I'm trying to adhere to an exaggerated version of myself, a heightened state. Right. There have been shows, like the worst show we ever played when we were playing a lot of bigger shows, but my guitarist at the time booked me a show at an open mic, and we were like a prog rock band, and we played up 3 old ladies with their fiddles who got really angry at us for not applauding, even though we did applaud. I guess they wanted us to applaud louder. And so we got greased up by them, and then we played the set. And I remember my inner Brian came out, and I started bad-mouthing the entire fucking place. There was like a hen's night at the back. I was like talking shit about them. I was like talking shit about everybody. And it seems cool when you're younger to kind of do that. I like to be a bit more sophisticated now with that, because I don't want the insecurity to bleed into the act. Like there can be insecure aspects of performance, but I would like them to be cohesive with the person I'm trying to be throughout, the entire piece, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. It changes the whole vibe. And also like listening back to it, I realized listening back to my shows, like I would much rather just hear the cello and the vocals and the kazoo keep folding in on themselves rather than being broken up by like an announcer. For me personally, although I mean there's nice things that you can do, because you can like do these games and stuff. If you're like, hey, come over here, I mean maybe I'll allow myself a couple words like help. If I'm stuck. That's
like the safe word for the land of Snap. Yeah, for sure. And so then another question I have is you referenced Gapuki a lot. Who is Gapuki?
Oh, so,
If I can be so inclined.
the way it works in my like personal world is that I'm always like, it's almost every day I have like a new name for myself, and and sometimes one like very perfectly encapsulates a certain aspect that is going on at the time, and that's what happened with Gapuki. One day I was like Gapuki, and then like Gapuki's like, it's very much an aspect of me, but it's like a very helpless monkey that is like kind of like completely like incapable of doing much of anything, and it just needs a lot of help. And but it's also, it's like good at just being Gapuki.
Yeah.
So is Gapuki like your Ziggy Stardust?
I guess I'm not as familiar as I need to be with Ziggy Stardust. I don't feel like instinctively Gapuki is an analogous to Ziggy Stardust. And Brianna, is Gapuki like Ziggy Stardust?
No, Gabuki's like a neurodivergent child monkey.
She says
No,
Gapuki
I
is
meant
like
that I meant it more as the comparison of like, I guess the method approach of having different identities, not that Gapuki, you know, looks like David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy to have discovered Gapuki, because Gapuki is almost like a name for this goblin entity. It's at least one name that works for now, and that's always subject to change. For this goblin entity that is increasingly taking over my life for better and for worse, which causes a lot of Christian people to say, "This guy is possessed. You need Jesus. You need Jesus." I get that a lot. You know, everyone's like, "You're possessed," and it's like, yeah, I'm possessed. I want to be possessed, and I want to be possessed by something friendly. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes me do dangerous things, and it makes me spray chemicals in my face, and it makes me hit myself over the head with a shovel a lot. Like, but it's like, that's its freedom, and I don't know why it's so fun. Like, you know, the first time that I discovered that a fire shovel made a really good tone, and then it's like, oh man, it'll be, you know, it's just like funny. It's like the movies, you know, you see movies.
Yeah, it's cartoony.
Yeah, exactly. Wile E. Coyote, he's just always getting fucked up, falling off cliffs, bang the bell, and like, ding, ding, ding. And like, all those cartoons are about, you know, like, so I've always liked to fall down, and I've always liked to beat myself up. I like falling down stairs in shows.
Do you request specifically that the venue has stairs for this specific need?
What's that?
Like, do you request that the venue has stairs so that you can activate the specific need?
I probably should, but no, I feel like it's enough, because it's kind of like a little bit rough on the body. You know, it's like I'm going to be sore the next day. It's literally got like, you know, between 7 and 20, well, any amount of stairs really. And I learned a few years ago that if I play the cello and I go down backwards head first, I can play the whole time and just go and land without hitting my head.
No shit.
It's pretty exciting.
Well, I feel like in terms of longevity, like a boxer has a certain retirement age because he suffers brain damage after what, like probably 30, like I feel like mid-30s to the late 30s. There's also the physicality of a boxer. I think, yeah, making sure that your head is okay. Like, you wouldn't wear a helmet of any kind or a mouth guard of any kind for these stunts because, again, would you feel that intrudes on the authenticity of it being safe?
I could see a point in which I might wear a helmet for certain occasions. Like, you know, it's my show, it's my rules, it's all made up anyways. So if I wanted to start being like guy who wears a helmet, and that was one of my things, like that would be fine. I could do that. Cause then I could get stuff thrown at me. And like, I don't know if you saw my stunt recently. I did this thing where my dad has a bunch of shovels around the property, and you know, if you step on a shovel, it'll come up and hit you in the face. And so I got one of his like construction helmets, and I just kept stepping on the thing, and it came and hit me in the helmet. not in the face. And so I don't think it really like jostled my head too bad.
That's a very like Simpsons thing. Like I've definitely seen Homer Simpson do that exact same stunt. So have
Oh,
you.
yeah.
That's probably why it's in the collective consciousness that you can do that with a shovel.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's that. But then also like, it's a good question because a lot of people are like, yeah, what are you going to do when your knees give out or whatever from all this jumping around and stuff. But as I've realized recently, I had the most views of any video ever of mine on Instagram. And it was I was like wearing a dress and like humping. I think I was playing the cello with my with my crotch like that, and playing another cello over here, and then playing guitar with my left hand, and wearing a dress with apples in it, and another take of that did real good on Facebook, and then I had one follow up to that where I was wearing a pink dress and it had cans of like peanut butter in it, and I was humping the cello and I was playing the other cello. And what was I doing? Oh, and while humping the cello, I had the carrot and the celery dangling from here around my waist, and they were banging a guitar that was plugged in through the amp. Those little innovations, and that seems to be going just as good as spraying chemicals in my face. So maybe there's a gentler future that's just like messing with different aspects of stuff that isn't normally done. It doesn't have to necessarily be dangerous or injurious. It could just be dangerous to people's like accepted version of reality.
That's really true. I've got a few more questions to ask you, but that is true. I did forget that you were also, for lack of a better word, humping the instrument and actually making sounds like that. I'm not going to ask you whether or not, I'm not going to ask you about sexual attraction or any of that shit. I think it's necessary, but I guess the algorithm isn't really, it might work really well because the algorithm's not prepared to see that. It's not really something you see. Even in sexualized content, you don't really see somebody doing that. Yeah. It's too primal, even for today's day and age. So when you do see it, you're like, wow, especially because you're mixing it with music, like the thrusting and then the actual, like the playing. It's something that I think you might have, I don't know if you pioneered it, because I know Butthole Surfers used to, for example, have sex live on stage and then torch the whole place up.
Oh, wow.
But I definitely haven't seen anyone do that with their hips ever. Have you? No. So you might be onto something with that. So that's.
I mean, there's like like I said, with all the different little streams or paths that lead to other things, like everything comes from somewhere. And there's like a famous, like, it's almost like a traditional like fiddle trick that maybe came from like vaudeville or something, where you're playing the fiddle, and since it's a light little instrument, you can put your bow like this between your knees and you just rub the fiddle with it. You know what I mean? And so then I was thinking for a while, well, yeah, where else can you take that? Because why would you just stop there? Like, also because cello, it doesn't really work very good. So I had to put it between my feet like this on the ground and then rub the cello on the ground. And so then you start thinking and you're like, well, I can also do it like that with my mouth. And I can also, what else could I do? Oh yeah, I could do it with my legs. You know what I mean? And so it's just, it's just a natural thing. It isn't necessarily overtly sexual. Just like, a lot of dances that people do involve some amount of thrusting. So why not make a sound?
For sure. And in terms of, because I want to speak about your kind of musical influences in terms of the fact that, yeah, like if you are thrusting in a particular way and you have like, I don't know, like a carrot or whatever, and it's hitting something else, like all of these things are creating sound. And I was at a piano bar in the Netherlands a while ago, and I noticed that when everybody had to be super, super quiet for the performance, the piano player started playing, and then we could hear a siren from an ambulance outside. And suddenly the piece was not just the piano playing, but the actual siren, the blend of the two, right? The moment itself.
Yeah.
And so you're doing the same thing because it's ultimately coming out as audio, whether or not you're recording it for output as a CD or not, or just recording it for Instagram. So every sound has its role, and that is the performance. That is the actual recording of it. Every little like thrust or hit or rustle or whatever. So then, are you influenced by John Cage? Are you influenced by like your Philip Glasses and stuff like that? Like, where does like that fit into it?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely I've read a lot of John Cage quotes. I would say that like made me feel like it was okay, um, and I I like the soundtrack to Koyaanisqatsi. I've listened to that a few times.
Amazing, crazy movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I like a lot of that stuff. I like Terry Riley. You really listen to Terry Riley?
No, I
I think
haven't.
he was the original minimalist, but he has some really awesome, like extended piano things that are very, really trippy and cool. Yeah, I mean, dude, yeah, there's so much that leads to everything. And for somebody to come out, it's not like I was born in a vacuum and then just decided one day, oh, I'll be weird. Like I said, like everything leads to like different people making things okay. Like someone had to come and make all this heinous 20th century classical music that's really hard to listen to in order to make atonalness okay, so that then afterwards that's just one ingredient that you can use.
Yeah.
Or like the guys that made free jazz and stuff, like they had to go and blaze that trail, and now it's a trail.
Well, it's really interesting that like even when I saw your pieces and I saw how unhinged they were, I knew that and obviously there is, yeah, again, losing yourself in the piece and the primal kind of aspect of that. But there is a real lucidity. I mean, you're a very like smart intellectual person and you're very cohesive with how you speak. And it's funny how like I was able to tell that, like before I even actually spoke to you. I've seen you do other interviews before and some stuff like that. But it is interesting that there is an element of control that is quite like it's refreshing, I guess. It's different to, I guess, if you went on the street and there was somebody with like a legitimate issue, dealing with like a legitimate problem, and they kind of just took it out on you. Like you've done it in like the nicest way possible. You've explored that outlet.
Man, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's cool. Yeah, you should I wish the people on Facebook could hear you say that, because yeah, a lot of people are like, this is mental illness, like you need to seek help, like you should die. The hate is so crazy these days, like the more views you get, especially for doing something weird, the more hate comes, and people are so certain and final with their judgments, like they know what's going on, and it most of the time it's cool, but every once in a while it gets to me. And so yeah, it's nice to know that somebody out there, who's obviously smart, thinks that.
Well, like for me, like this, even though there's humorous aspects to what you do and there's crazy aspects, the excitement for being able to chat to somebody like you doesn't come from being able to chat to the Goblin. You know what I mean? If we were having a conversation for an hour with the Goblin, I think the interview would have been cut short 55 minutes ago. I think everyone
exactly.
that I've interviewed on this podcast, like we interviewed Mr. Let's Paint, who we became friends with, and he's
I love
amazing.
that guy.
And yeah, well, I'll show you his animation that we did for him as well. And he's like a lucid, smart dude that's influenced everyone from Eric Andre to Zach Galifianakis to probably most comedians out there. And so for somebody on Facebook to just say, oh, like you're like a freak or whatever, I think that's just such a basic reaction, and it goes two ways, because they're obviously, you're doing it so well that it's hard to see the human in that, for a lot of people. And so they just see the monstrosity, but that just means that you're doing your job well. And then the other part of it is like, people are very uptight, man, depending on where you go. And so people don't really know how to express themselves. Non-creatives don't know how to express themselves. I mean, everyone's creative, but people who've been institutionalized out of being creative don't know how to process their emotions. And so if you watch somebody being so wild, so crazy, so free, it's very easy to laugh at them. But everyone laughs at them until that person ends up getting like it's funny how like you'll laugh at, you'll be like, oh, that musician's so weird, until they end up opening for your favorite band or your favorite group. And then you go, Oh, and it wasn't them who got him there, you know, it was the musician who's already operating on that level who saw them and picked them out and said, those are the guys I want, because we're all outsiders in this field. I don't have to put on a Goblin, you know, like the Goblin allure to fucking be an outsider. I'm an outsider here in my scene, you know, and I always will be.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty in that. And I think, especially in 2025, we need to be more accepting of this, because at the end of the day, they're watching your video. They could be doing fucking anything else, man. And so if they feel the need to comment on a video, they won't even comment on videos that they actually like. Like, as in, like, they won't comment on a video that they have positive things to say. They're just going to talk shit about a video that they think that they can kind of provoke a reaction from you. And unfortunately, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, because you are like a person, and because you are not a person, a sensitive kind of person who is cohesive and lucid, you're going to take that shit to heart, you know, on the receiving end.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, right now I'm in a process with it where I'm trying to figure out how to use it. Like, I've heard that some people don't look at any of their comments, but you know, sometimes people say really awesome stuff, and that gives me a new framework in which to see it. But also sometimes maybe it's like good if it makes me a little bit mad. You know what I mean? Like it could be
a reaction, right? Like you do want not necessarily reactions, but you want emotions. It doesn't really matter what emotion it is. No piece is going to be 100% happy. No piece is going to be 100% sad. It all comes from everywhere. So at the end of the day, as long as people are saying something, for me, the issue is when people say nothing. You know, I hate not getting feedback. I hate not getting any sort of like compliments. I mean, compliments go a long way, but hate goes a long way. In music, you can channel hate very easily. You can channel it way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a pride in getting booed, like, you know, like the stories of Stravinsky, them rioting when they did Rite of Spring or whatever for the first time in Paris, you know, or any number of musicians that people thought were like way too out there or whatever, and then they became famous. But then there's the point at which, like, you know, you don't know if it's like if it's genius or if it's madness, you know, if it's just a bunch of nonsense. And really it's like I guess kind of like in the eye of the beholder.
It is,
as to which one it is, you know, like Cecil Taylor, you know, like the guy that is the free jazz piano guy. Yeah, like I know a lot of people that are into jazz that just don't get it. They just don't understand. They won't understand it. But there's a lot of people out there that think he's like the most brilliant pianist ever. And so, like, which is it?
Well, yeah, it's I guess there is the collective consciousness, but that's not the mainstream. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between I don't know, your Ed Sheerans, which I wouldn't classify as your zeitgeist, and then somebody who does classify as that, who's pushing the medium, who's actually saying what the universe wants to be said, you know? And I think a lot of it has to do with capitalism and just commerce and the commercialization of music as well, as to what we perceive as success too, because we don't need to sell even a single record to be a successful musician. So there's that too. Rashad, I know you're busy in a little bit. I did want to see, because you've got the outfit on, if you could play us a piece to us. And if you can, I was wondering, you're probably going to do it in Sneed or Sneedish, but the intro to this podcast is the words like Left Brain, Right Brain Podcast. Let's talk about the arts. That's all it is. If you can do a rendition for me of that with whatever you got there, I'll use it as the intro and the outro for this episode. Rashad, thank you for hanging out with us for the last hour and a bit. It's been awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. It's been very, what do you call it? Reinforcing and eye-opening, enlightening, and uplifting.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot, Rashad. So thank you, man, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you, guys. Okay, goodbye.
Gotcha.
Left brain, right brain.